On today's show, the LA Clippers got their first win of preseason with a great stretch of ball, a not so great stretch of ball, and then a solid stretch to end the game. What made it such a roller coaster of a game for the Clippers? Who stood out? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Preseason Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and entering my 20th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell if you haven't. And, of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Get all your betting needs at FanDuel.com. And now, this episode of Locked On Clippers talking about the win we got over the Brooklyn Nets, 115-106 in our second preseason game of the 2024-25 campaign. This one coming in Oceanside, California at the new Front Wave Arena. Looked like a really cool place to watch the game. Smaller stadium. It's going to be home to our G League team, who are now the San Diego Clippers, which is an homage to the past. And how about that logo? So we're going to be talking about the game, what led to the great start, what led to the not so great moments, the iso ball and turnovers, and how that was happening, and then some stuff on Kai Jones that I noticed because I thought he was a pretty big player in that game. But how about that logo in the middle of the court? That was literally like the identical San Diego Clippers logo. It was so cool to see that. And then, of course, the uniforms are still, I'm just like, in awe every time. If I was an emoji, I'd be the hard eyes emoji every time I'm looking at our jerseys and our players wearing them. It's just unbelievable. And the one thing, though, I have to complain about, what was up with the broadcast of the game? We couldn't even watch the game locally? That's insanity. You had to have Clipper Vision to watch the game? Is that a way to make you buy Clipper Vision? They better not be doing that for any of the 82 regular season games because I ain't buying no Clipper Vision. I don't need to pay more than I need to right now for stuff in life. That's insanity. There was no commentary. It was just Eric Smith. Shout out to Eric Smith, who, by the way, if anybody knows Eric Smith, can you please ask him to come on this show? I've always wanted to meet him. I've never gotten the chance to. He's been an inspiration since I was a kid. Our PA announcer, Eric Smith, no play-by-play guy. No Carlo Jimenez, no nobody. No Brian. But let's talk about the basketball because I still ended up watching the game. If you haven't watched the game, just ask me on Twitter. If you have Twitter, ask me, and I can send you a link to it. But we got off to an incredible start. By the time I turned the game on and even checked the replay, the best it could do was start me at 12-2. Clippers are winning. So I didn't get to see anything before that. But everything else, we got off to a great start because we were getting stops and making every three. Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, James Harden, even Derek Jones knocked one down. And basketball is a simple game. If you get stops, that allows you to get out in transition, potentially with numbers, and not everybody able to get back onto their man, so it allows for cross matches in transition, mismatches. And, of course, the defense is scrambling depending on where they are. If you're making shots, you get to set your defense and you're building momentum. It's a very simple game. So when you don't score, that's when you leave yourself the most vulnerable in basketball. And in the first quarter, when the Clippers are doing a great job of showing what that lineup is capable of, and that lineup is Zoo, Harden, Derek Jones Jr., Terrence, and Norm. I mean, there are some concerns right now about Norm and James Harden defending together, but Norm has been really solid in preseason defensively so far. But what I loved is the tenacity of Terrence and Derek Jones. You saw what that looked like out there, albeit the Nets are really, I think, going to be the worst team in the East, maybe the worst team in the league this year. Their best player is Cam Thomas, I believe. And Ben Simmons was starting for them. Ben Simmons. Haven't heard that name in a while. And we were guarding him with our center. He doesn't even look at the basket. And he doesn't have players that make it that much easier for him. He was 1 for 5 and had 2 points in 13 minutes. I mean, I don't know what's gone on. What's gone on with him? He's been away from the game consistently in the NBA for too long. I don't think he'll ever return to anywhere close to all-star heights at this point. But as far as the Clippers, the better team here, we were up 35-18 after one. And as I said, defense leading to offense. You got Terrence getting out in transition a bit, but everybody was making threes. I love the way James Harden was playing, where he wasn't even bringing the ball up every single time. There were some plays where somebody else would bring it up, and he would come catch it on the wing and then flow into a dribble handoff. It's all going to come from James. The actual play creation is going to come from James on every possession without Kawhi. But it's nice to give somebody else a touch coming up the floor, not make Harden have to dribble it up, every time and expend that energy. And it's also on him. You don't have to bring it up every time. You know what I'm saying? So I like that wrinkle, which we saw sometimes last year, but when we went to stagnant, slow, in our roughest portions, James was working a little bit too hard. And I think he's always done that a little bit by choice, but it's also good to remind him, like, look, you're going to have to do a lot anyway this season. So some of that play initiation is not the worst in the world when someone else brings it up. I thought he was also being aggressive, took that step back mid-range, which I really liked on the right wing in that first quarter. Norm continues to be spectacular after that first game, just looking really sharp with his shot and going to the basket. And it's funny because the last couple of seasons, basically the 2 seasons since I've taken over as host, the only 2 full seasons Norman Powell's been a Clipper, he has gotten off to really bad slumps in the beginning of the season. And people are saying, oh, should we trade the guy? So it's a fantastic sign to see him looking really good in preseason. That's not to say that he might not have a slump to begin the season, but just remember, if there is such a thing, it's just a slump. It's not, something that we got to overreact about. Norm is solid, and he's been looking pretty good defensively so far in this preseason, on the ball, and even alert off the ball. When Zubats came out of the game, I thought the start for Zubats was pretty good. We still aren't throwing the ball to him in the post enough for me. We threw the ball to him 3 times in the post. 1 time he scored. Another time he missed a little drop step push shot with his right hand. I thought he was going to go up with his left. Then there was another time where they were fronting the post, and that exact high-low I was describing a couple episodes ago, Nico flashed to the foul line and threw a bounce pass to Zoo. Now that he had the inside position and the window created by Nico flashing foul line, having that window to pass. So really good stuff there. By the way, amazing to see Nico back on the court. But we started to let the Nets back in the game with that second unit. But before I get into that, just wanted to talk more about that good start. It's really simple. You got Derek Jones, you got Terrence Mann against the team, and of course Zoo behind him, against the team that's not very good offensively and not very good, period. You get stops, we get out, do our thing. And when James Harden's throwing the ball up the court, he doesn't have to run the break. If he just throws that ball up the court, that gives Derek Jones Jr. and Terrence Mann and Norman Powell the license to go and attack. I think when Kawhi's out there as well as James Harden, that also slows us down a bit. Maybe a team can still play with a fast pace, even with James Harden being on the ball, over the majority of the game. Just with those hit-ahead passes that he's so good at. But yeah, 35-18 at one point before they started to get back into the game. Amir Coffey, I thought, was really solid yet again. Actually, no, the first game he was okay, but this game he was really solid. Instant energy, to be honest. Getting to the basket in transition, even in the half court, knocked down a 3. Actually, no, he didn't knock down a 3. He was 0 for 1 from 3, but 3 for 5 from the field. 7 points in just 16 minutes. I liked what I saw from Amir. But defensively, and not taking care of the ball, that's where it started going wrong for the Clippers. Why and how was that happening? Going to be talking about that coming up. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us. But what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them. Because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so my biggest takeaway from the great start we had is that this team has a lot of defensive potential. We already knew that. It's not breaking news. And when we get stops, that'll trigger our offense. But also, when we score, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing, when we score and are making threes like that, that lets our defense set. And our set defense won't be easy to beat. So that's the key. It's going to be our offense helping our defense. I think that's going to be more of a thing than defense leading offense. I think we have some good fast break players, but it depends how much we force turnovers. We get stops. I still don't know if when Kawhi is back, we're going to be much of a pace-pushing team. But if we score more than I expect, we get to get back on D and set our defense, that's where we're going to be good. Now, why did it start going bad? Well, as I said, when Kawhi and James Harden are healthy, we can't take both of them out at the same time if we want to compete for a playoff spot. Because a Kevin Porter Jr., Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, Kai Jones / Mo Bamba. I don't think Mo Bamba is that much better than Kai. And Nico lineup, that's not very good. If we're starting Norman Powell, see that let's say we don't have Kawhi, right? Because it looks like right now we're not going to have Kawhi for opening night against Phoenix on October 22nd. We don't have Kawhi. So that's the starting lineup we're probably going to run with. Norm, James, Zoo, Terrence, and Derek, right? So off the bench, you're relying on KPJ and or Bones to create all the offense. Nico's not a creator. Kai Jones is not a creator. Amir Coffey's not a creator. And neither is Chris Dunn. And by the way, I've been watching Chris Dunn, and this is part of the reason why we let them get back in the game too. As amazing as he is defensively, great hands, physical, good anticipation, can move his feet. I thought he made some great plays on the ball defensively. Offensively, that's where the challenges come. That's why he has struggled to stay in the NBA consistently and get minutes on decent teams. He's never really been on a decent team. He's not a very good shooter. He's not confident in his shot. And on the ball, in the pick and roll, he was not turning the corner quickly enough. And he was not trusting. He does not trust his passing ability very much relative to other NBA players. He'll jump pass. He'll not throw passes that are there but difficult. They are very difficult. And he also is taking a little bit too wide of an angle, it looks like, on those pick and rolls. And the point of attack defender is just, able to recover fairly easily, especially when he's not turning the corner with burst. So he and others did a way of making the court look like a college court, like with the three-point line closer to the basket and the spacing being worse. It did not feel like I was watching an NBA court. Maybe that was the camera angle. Maybe that was because, I don't know, the playmaking wasn't as good out there. It felt like I was watching a smaller court. But NBA length is no joke. NBA length and athleticism is no joke. These windows for passes are there for a split second. And it makes you admire how the guys like Chris Paul, James Harden, LeBron, Luka, Trae Young even, Tyrese Halliburton, these guys make it look so easy in the pick and roll with their passing, because these reads, they make it look like it's a basic read. But for some players that aren't as confident in their scoring and ball handling ability and passing, it's those three things with the pick and roll now, right? Shooting, which is making guys go over the screen. And it's funny because they'll still go over the screen with Chris Dunn sometimes, but as I'm saying, he's taking a little too wide of an angle, it looks like, and not attacking right off the screen. He's kind of hesitating a bit and then going. By that time, the defense has already recovered. So offensively, it's going to be a struggle for him. I think, it might be a struggle for him, I should say. I don't wish that on him because he seems like a really funny guy based on the social media content that has been posted of him from the Clippers social media, from the Clippers social media account. And I'm a big fan of Chris Dunn I was a big fan of Chris Dunn at Providence, so I'm rooting for him. I think defensively, because of how good he is, he will be a part of the rotation, but offensively it might get rough. It really puts all the onus on Kevin Porter Jr. And I have to say, I thought KPJ was really solid in this game. His defense has been solid in both games, both preseason games. As far as the offense, though, the process is everybody stand around and watch KPJ work. And I don't think that's a Ty Lue thing. I think we just don't have guys that are creators. So if it's not high pick and roll, it's going to be ISO. Because who else are you running through? You can make some elaborate play, but these days teams are just going to switch and blow up some of those plays, with off-ball screens and whatnot. If you don't have an interior threat that makes the defense potentially switch, then they're just going to switch a lot. And Kai Jones, he's not scaring anybody, if they switch a wing on him or something. So it's all going to be KPJ. It was looking good in this game. He had some really nice moves, great moments of ball handling, some step backs. But it worries me because if that shot's not falling, we're really just relying on KPJ and James Harden pick and roll or isolation for our whole offense without Kawhi. And that scares me. And James Harden, for as well as he was playing in the first quarter, he started turning the ball over so much. Very careless with the ball. Jump passing on the baseline. I don't know what was going on there, but 14 points for him in the game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. 6 turnovers, though, on a very efficient 6 for 9 shooting and 2 for 4 from 3. So shot much better than game 1. And again, I think especially if we don't have Kawhi, our whole game is going to come down to if James Harden's hitting his jump shot because he's not getting to the rim the same way. He played 17 minutes, only played the first half. But those 6 turnovers, a little careless, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's preseason. He also has not been playing defense most of the time, but again, preseason. It's going to be a long season for James with what we're hearing about Kawhi. So it's not just James, by the way, that got careless. Everybody got careless. Everybody was turning the ball over. There was one time Derek Jones was just bringing it up on one of those plays I was talking about where Harden was getting a little rest, walking it up the court. And he stops his dribble like near half court, Derek Jones Jr., and doesn't trust his right hand to make the pass around the body of the defender. And he throws a really high lob pass that gets intercepted that he intended for Zoo. So when the Nets put on some pressure defensively, full court, we started turning the ball over very carelessly. So let's see if that's a problem for the Clippers this season, just given that they don't have many ball handlers who can handle pressure if teams start pressing up, trying to force us to drive. They outscored us 39-20 in the second quarter. So it was pretty bad. And, of course, as I said, we're not going to have many options outside of KPJ with that second unit if Norman Powell is starting. Kai Jones, I'm going to talk about him more in the final segment, but in the first half, he looked pretty erratic offensively, but his rim protection looks pretty good. Nico, it was good to see him. He was doing a lot of the little things well, like that high-low I was talking about, keeping possessions alive. I'm going to check before next episode, but it feels like Nico takes less and less shots around the basket these days. And, of course, that's normal because he's older, but it feels like sometimes he still can go to the basket. He chooses not to. I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to get hurt or something, but it's just something to look for this season, Clipper Nation. And I thought we got a little lazy defensively. We got backdoored several times in that second quarter. There was one time Terrence Mann just got blown by so easily by Dennis Schroeder baseline that it looked like his feet were stuck in mud. So I thought a laziness defensively and us not reacting well to ball pressure and turning the ball over, plus a not great offensive lineup, those were the reasons why they got back in the game. Derek Jones Jr. went down late in the second quarter, but it was just apparently it's a head contusion. Just had a hard hit. Should be okay for the next game. And I thought James Harden ended the half well offensively. But coming up, going to be talking a little bit more about the second half, Kai Jones, Kobe Brown, and the young lads. Going to be talking about them coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. NBA bets are ready to rock over at FanDuel, and they have been for a while, and they'll still be all season long. As far as the division, let's take a look at the Pacific Division. The Clippers are last, plus 1,200 to win the Pacific. I would hammer that because if Kawhi's healthy, we're right in the mix. Now, it depends how confident you feel about Kawhi's health. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right. So the second half, but the Clippers played 15 players in this game. So the second half, we're talking about guys like Kai Jones. I think Amir Coffey and Chris Dunn played a little bit in the second half. Nate Darling, Jordan Miller, Kevin Porter played, I think, a little bit as well. And Kobe Brown, he didn't play in the first half at all. Cam Christie. Ray J. Dennis, by the way, was waived by the Clippers. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was going to make that last two-way spot anyway. But second half, we outscored the Nets 28-19, and we had a really good stretch where our defense looked solid. Shout out KPJ and Chris Dunn on the ball, looking pretty good. And one thing that was rare, I was just praising Kobe Brown and his off-ball awareness in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, but he got beat backdoor twice in this game. That was interesting, and he had a rough start to the game when he came in, turned the ball over, airballed a 3, but then slowly but surely got, more comfortable and found his rhythm. He does have good off-ball awareness for the most part, I think, and he's a fearless rebounder. He goes and attacks the ball. He doesn't just let it come to him. He goes and attacks the ball, Kobe Brown. He had 5 rebounds in 20 minutes. In the end, he actually finished with the best plus-minus of any Clipper player, plus 14 in this game. Again, single game plus-minus. I'm not taking that to the bank. 4 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, and a block. Oh, my God. I didn't even notice that. 4 steals and a block. Okay. 2 for 4 from the field, 0 for 1 from threes. At 3, I talked about him airballing, but overall, solid showing. I just thought as the level of play went down, his game went up, is kind of what I was seeing. And, that Summer League squad, that Clippers Summer League squad that almost won it, a lot of them were sharing the court together late in the game, and I think that was also part of why we were looking good, is those guys have chemistry with one another. But Kai Jones, he reminds me of one of those kids in high school that's like grown a lot all of a sudden, and he's just adjusting to his body, and you'll still have those freakishly athletic moments because he's a demon, but he looks a little clumsy with the ball. He doesn't make you confident with it, and you feel like there's a mistake potentially waiting to happen. That's how I feel with Kai Jones, but in that second half, he was having a dunk fest, and I think that'll be perfect for the Intuit Dome. I just don't know if against the actual, playoff or play-in level competition in the West, can he hang and not be a liability on that court? I think he's got a great leaping ability that will allow him to be a good shot blocker. Will he be talking defensively? Will he be smart enough defensively? And then with the ball in his hands, he scares me. He looks very erratic, very clumsy, fumbling the ball, missing layups, but he is a vertical threat. And I think with James Harden, that could produce some highlights in that pick and roll. So overall, I kind of liked what we saw from Kai Jones. In this game, he had 13 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block, 2 turnovers, though. And we turned the ball over 20 times in the game. But Kai shot 6 for 8 from the field, and both of those were layups on the same possession. But after that, I guess he had 6 consecutive dunks. Yeah, 11 third-quarter points. But you love to see it. And it'll be interesting to see Kai Jones and Mo Bamba kind of like battle out for that backup spot. I truly don't know if there's going to be a competition, but we'll see. Maybe Mo Bamba has that spot, but I don't know. Kai Jones has some redeeming qualities, in my opinion. Nico Batum, by the way, he had a donut, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He was 0 for 4 and 0 for 3 from 3. But I don't know. It didn't even feel like Nico played badly. He still got 2 offensive rebounds, had that assist I was talking about. The worst thing Nico Batum will do is miss shots. If it's a Zubats, by the way, I just want to read these stats so I don't forget. 6 points, 4 boards, 2 blocks on 2 for 3 shooting in 17 minutes, 2 for 2 from the foul line. He did have 4 fouls, and he only played the first half, but we still need to feed Zoo more. Derrick Jones had 3 points and 3 blocks and a steal in 13 minutes, by the way, and his only shot was that corner three. Norman Powell had 10 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal on 2 for 5 shooting, 2 for 3 from deep, and 4 for 4 from the foul line. Then how about Terrence Mann? Much better game from him. Got out in transition, made an open three. He could have had 13 points if he made all his free throws. 1 for 4 from the line, 4 for 4 from the field. Saw a little bit of downhill Terrence in transition. 1 for 1 from 3, 10 points in 17 minutes. But, and I think Kevin Porter Jr. is the last one I wanted to read. 9 points for him, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. You actually started to see some of those passing chops from KPJ. So I think he can pass. I think the more curious thing to see is how well can he make reads in the pick and roll against good teams. That's what I want to see. Is it just going to be stagnant, him dribbling, and he's not going to see the pass or make reckless passes? Because on the drive and in natural, like, fast break situations like that no-look pass he threw to Kai Jones, I think he can pass. But yeah, solid showing from KPJ. Cam Christie, he's been kind of off in the preseason, but I like his energy, and I like his willingness to shoot. 3 points, 3 boards, 1 assist, 1 block on 1 for 7 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3. And even with Nico and Cam Christie combining for 0 for 7 from deep, we shot 12 for 30 from 3, so 40% as a team, 54% from the field. Free throws could be better, though, 68%. Chris Dunn, 5 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, no turnovers, thankfully for him after a 4-turnover game, and 2 for 5 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. So at least he did shoot 50% from 3. But Kai Jones, my take on him is that he's very raw. I don't think personally he could be a backup center on a championship team right now, or maybe ever. But I wouldn't say ever. I got to give him a chance. But the room for error when you're in a championship rotation is small. Can he be our backup center? We'll see. I think that's more of a Mo Bamba versus him thing, but there are some redeeming qualities there, as I mentioned. Vertical threat, athleticism, liveliness. Jordan Miller. This guy just seems to produce when he's on the court. He came in the fourth quarter or second half and doing the same things we saw him do in Summer League. So good attacking closeouts, made his only 3-point attempt, got to the line, and he was getting to the line like prime James Harden in the Summer League. 4 for 4 from the foul line in this game. 4 for 6 from the field. He does such a great job of attacking closeouts and then decelerating and absorbing contact and still keeping his balance to finish. That is not easy at all. He'll go from fast to slow, take those 1-2 big steps, and the defender will fly by and he'll score. So in terms of Jordan Miller, I don't think he'll get, especially on a 2-way contract, he won't be getting more minutes than Amir, but definitely don't let go of Jordan Miller. I think there's a player there, especially, kind of in that similar role to an Amir Coffey or Terrence Mann later down the line. But let me know what you thought of the game. Clippers ended up winning it 115-106. Again, I think the takeaways from this team are very obvious. We're going to be a very good defensive team, but without Kawhi, it's all on James Harden and like KPJ to create shots. And I don't know how confident I am in that. A team led by James Harden right now in the West with this supporting cast is not getting to the plan. Like, no, I'd bet any amount of money on it. But that's not our team. We have Kawhi taking up, $50 million this year. So hopefully he can be healthy. I don't see it happening on opening night, but we can only hope for the best, right? You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I did a video predicting every Eastern Conference team and talking about them a bit, 1 through 15. Going to be doing a West one soon. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Let me know what you thought of the game. And, of course, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell as the season is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. Intuit Dome era soon to begin. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.